Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm Nathan Shields, and today I've got repeat guest, good buddy, friend of mine, and one of my very first clients as a PT owner, Adam Robin, owner, founder, and CEO of Southern PT in Picayune, Mississippi. Adam, good to have you on, man.
Excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you as well. For those who don't know, number one, I've been coaching PT owners for the past 4 years. Like I said, Adam being one of my first ones. And Adam, I'm excited to say, is joining me to be a PT owners coach as well under the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast and coaching brand. And man, I'm excited to work with you going forward as a coach for PT owners.
I know it's crazy just to kind of sit back and think about the journey, because that's what it is, a journey. You start this thing called a PT business and you go down this road, and the next thing you know, you meet some great people along the way. And then now I get the opportunity to maybe help somebody else too. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, for those people who don't know, I don't promote it a whole lot on the podcast, but I do coaching for physical therapy owners. And if you go to ptoclub.com, there is a book a call button anywhere on there where you can reach out to me individually and also with Adam to do a discovery call, just see where your business is at, see if and how we can help you at all. And those are free consultation, just like you might provide for your patients. But we love to investigate and look into your business and what's going wrong and how we can help you. And so we're excited to not only bring Adam on to the team. It was a team of one. It was just me. Now I'm bringing Adam on. I'm excited to have him on. But Adam, what got you excited about doing coaching yourself?
Well, that's an awesome question. And I think that we're all coaches in a sense, right? If you're a business owner.
If you're a small business owner, for sure, you have to.
You're a coach, and I think that you may be coaching your clients and that's it. Then you kind of expand, you hire some people on your team, and now you're coaching members of your team, right? And then maybe you develop a leadership or an executive team, and now your level of coaching kind of continues to expand, right?
Right.
And so I think that as I've grown, like my purpose has just kind of continued to evolve, and I really just enjoy connecting with people at a high level and helping them realize new opportunities for themselves and discover new things that they might be able to implement into their business. And it's just fun. It's really just what gets me jazzed up, and so what better way to develop myself personally and professionally than to kind of wear that hat as a coach, so that's really what gets me excited.
Yeah, it's really fulfilling to help PT owners realize goals and achieve things that they didn't think they could achieve or just needed some guidance, right?
That's right.
And that's really fun and fulfilling. And so I'm excited to bring you on to affect more PT owners out there to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. But before we get into that, people who haven't listened to the previous podcast episode with you 2 years ago, almost to the date, tell them a little bit summarize your history for us and where you started, what's happening now.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm still a pretty young owner, honestly. We started our business in 2019, just a team of one, like you said. It's been an awesome experience. Not easy, but through a lot of grit and determination over the last few years, we've expanded. I think we have about 30 employees now. We have multidisciplines. We have PT, OT, and speech. We've opened our second location. We're actually moving forward with opening a third location. Our goal is to get open in the next 90 days. So, things have kind of exploded so over the last few years, and it's been awesome. So,
well, what do you think? What are some of the keys to your pretty rapid success? Like, as I was working with you as a client, I recognized immediately your determination, your willingness to immediately confront issues. You weren't one to hem and haw and kind of stew and brew. You were going to confront issues as they come up very quickly and address them and handle them so you can move forward. And you have a great vision for your company. But what were some, successful things that you had to do in order to achieve this goal?
Yeah, I know we kind of, you and I chatted about it a little bit a few weeks ago. And so I've had a few weeks to kind of think about it a little. I think ultimately success, like that's a pretty big word, so success, I guess, really just means to me, like being able to be fulfilled what in any way that you seem like, any way that suits you best, any way that fulfills your personal purpose. So,
Right.
And to me, I've always felt like I'm kind of a natural. I've learned to evolve as a leader and to develop some skills as a leader. And so leadership is what fulfills me, right? And not just growing my own leadership, but also helping others develop their leadership skills. Every now and then you'll get a young person who will reach out to me and they'll say, "Hey Adam, I'm thinking about opening up a business, I'm thinking about doing this. What are the first few things to think about?" And I always go back to leadership. Talk about leadership. And nobody really wants to talk about that, right? People want to talk about, like, how do I make more money? What I mean? How do I get how do I grow and expand? Right.
Yeah. I can totally see where you're coming from, because I think the pivot point in my ownership journey that turned from complaining about the business and not knowing what to do to eventually taking control over my business and seeing it grow and expand and become more profitable, honestly, was when I finally took hold of the idea that I am an owner first and a PT second.
Right.
And that I had to spend time working on my business. And it took me, honestly, probably 8 to 10 years to figure that out. I had at the time what you would call a successful PT clinic. It was a one clinic show, and it was me and another PT and a couple PTAs, and we were productive, and I wasn't hurting financially. Yet it was one of those things where I was waking up at 4 a.m. to do notes. I was leaving at 6 a.m., wouldn't see my kids, wouldn't see my newborn, right? Awake and in the first thing in the morning, neither would I see them awake when I got home at 7 o'clock at night, right? And when I finally took ownership to say, I can't be treating full time and I have to spend time on the business, and started setting aside two half days a week to work on the business, it wasn't until then that I really started seeing changes in my business. And so simply taking on, like you're talking about, just simply taking on the leadership mantle and recognizing that I am the captain of this ship. And if I'm treating patients all day, no one's manning the helm. So I need to spend time managing the ship and make it go where I want it to go in order to achieve the goals that I want.
Yes.
And so I see where you're coming from with the leadership thing.
Yeah. So I think leadership is a big term too, right? You can define leadership in a lot of different ways, And so the way that we define it, well, one of the key ways that we like to define it is leadership has very little to do with what you do, but leadership has everything to do with the way that you think. Right. And so, because I think you hit on a point that I really, really liked, and I don't want to miss it, but you said that you had to change internally.
Right.
Right. Like you had to change the way you were thinking about your role in the business first. And nothing happened until that happened.
Right. And it was
leadership.
Right. And it was exactly, I can remember my thought processes back in the day prior to that point of pivot was, why aren't all these people doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Right.
If they would just get their stuff done, then I wouldn't have all these headaches. And it was the abdication of leadership altogether. Like, I wanted to abdicate all the responsibility to everybody else without taking on the mentality that, no, they need direction. They want direction. They want training. They want accountability in the practice, because they see the things going wrong in the business as well. And no one, especially the owner, isn't doing anything about it. So until I recognize that, oh, they're not doing anything because I haven't been clear, I haven't given expectations, right? I haven't laid out policy and procedure, that comes from the leader. And if you're not doing that, then you're not leading.
Yeah.
Starts with that mentality first, like you said.
Exactly. And the first person that you lead is yourself.
Yeah.
And, I think that, I guess business owners come in all shapes and sizes, right? But I would say that most of them, and you can tell me what you think, but most of them are hot, quick starters, have a lot of ideas, probably aren't great employees, right? They don't like to be told what to do, right? They want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
So they've never really been taught how to lead in a lot of ways, right? I know I didn't know how to lead. I mean, you remember me, I was a mess. I was going 100 miles an hour. I didn't know which way I was going, right? And so, yeah, the first person you lead is yourself. And then once you learn that, well, at least my experience is once I learned how to lead myself, only then was I able to start leading others.
What do you mean by leading yourself when you say that?
Great question. Great question. You teed that up for me. There are a lot of things that come with being an owner. A lot of the hard things like anxiety, fear, insecurity, irrational thoughts and mindsets. And you got all this garbage in your head because your business has put so much stress on you that now the worst parts about the way that you think are being exposed.
Okay. So the worst parts about us are being exposed.
The worst parts about you are being exposed, right? The business is like, hey, all your bones are being exposed, right? Because now you're stressed. And so part of what you need to do is learn how to become familiar with those things and start to peel back the layers of like, why am I thinking this way? Why am I behaving this way? Why is my team responding in this way? Right. And so, and everybody kind of has their own journey of personal growth, but doing things like journaling and meditation or making sure you're spending time taking care of yourself and learning how to develop some self-awareness, right? Developing some structure in your life, right? So you can manage your
time,
manage your attention a little bit differently.
right?
And then once you do that, you can lead yourself. I can manage myself.
Where do you find a coach helps in that particular part of the development?
Well, I think that the ultimate job of a coach is to recognize and to be present with the client and to recognize when those skeletons are starting to manifest. I can see the irrational behavior. And what I want you to do is I want to invite you to start thinking a little differently, right? And then try to build repeating patterns in the new way of thinking. So that way you can start to feel comfortable with it. Right. You can let those bad habits go and start to think a little bit differently.
Yeah, I love, simply put, how a coach can provide perspective.
They provide that space, right? They provide that, they ask the right questions, right?
Or also forcing the client to put their concern into words. Because sometimes what I'll find is as people are expressing their concern in words, they recognize how maybe irrational it is or silly sometimes. Or maybe when I put words to it, it's not that big a deal at all.
Not a big deal at all.
Right?
Normal, actually.
Yeah,
maybe it's
exactly.
Thing.
Yeah.
You didn't even realize. It's exciting.
But just but so many of these issues that we have that hold us back are simply in our heads. Right. And once we formulate words around them and express them, we recognize, what am I worried about again? Sometimes it's like that, right? Or allows then the coach to ask, like you said, ask the right question. Uh-huh. Like, okay, is that really a big deal right now? Or are there more important issues on the table? Or, I'm just giving examples, but maybe they ask the right questions that give you, again, a different perspective on what might be holding you back, or what might be providing anxiety, and what might be the real issue.
Well, I'll give you my perspective is it's always you. It's always been you. You're in a battle with yourself. You're the limiter every time. And the degree in which you can recognize, interpret, and act and get out of the way quickly, that's the path to success right there. And sometimes that looks like trusting other people to treat the patients, or being willing to have that hard conversation with an employee or the biller or whoever it might be, getting out of the.
Yeah. Well, what it looks like is death. Like, it looks like the worst possible thing, because the thing that's holding you back is the scariest thing for you.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Exactly.
And one of my coaches, the idea that always comes to my head often as I'm avoiding things is, he said, if it looks like death, run towards it, because that's exactly what's holding you back.
Or just get curious.
Yeah.
You can be fearful, but that's okay. Like, just fine. Just explore a little bit. Ask some questions. Try some things out. Play with it.
See what it's like.
See what it's like.
Put some words to it. Sometimes it's good to do the fear setting exercise. What's the worst possible thing that could happen in a situation? Let's take it as dire as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And what is going to happen if it gets to that point? Because it won't get that bad. But let's talk about it. Let's address the fear and take it all the way.
That's right.
And so sometimes fear setting can be helpful in those situations as well.
Yeah, I had a coach one time that was really, really smart, a lot smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he said, clients succeed whenever they're willing to face their own demons and take action. That's it. That's all it is. You're willing to hit it head on, and fumble it up and mess it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what really gets me excited when I help people take action and overcome their fears, right? That's what really excites me.
Well, yeah, you see someone grow. It's almost like watching your kids sometimes. You're like, as they're growing, they're able to do more, and you're like, hey, good job. Remember when you were scared of that, or you hated that, or you were so bad, or you told me you were so bad, and you didn't think you'd ever want to do it again, or think you'd never get good, and now look what you did. It's super exciting. Yeah, it's super fun.
Listen, I can Google how to build an empire right now. I can Google that. I don't need the strategy. You know what I mean? It's not the strategy. It's you. Right? I think I read an article one time that said, I think I'm throwing numbers out there, but it was a really high number of people who win the lottery. Right? They win the lottery, and then the next thing they know, the next day they have all these millions of dollars in the account, and then a huge number of them lose everything within 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Because they haven't become the person that they need to be in order to, right?
Right.
So focus on yourself, grow yourself, and everything else follows.
Yeah. And so you noticed that along your journey, that as you, number one, improved yourself, then it became easier to coach the team. Huh?
Yeah. And it became funner because I was able to try new things, and not be so bound by fear and failure, and now I guess my risk muscle has grown, my ability and my willingness to take more risks has grown stronger. And so now it's let's open another clinic. Right? It's funner.
Yeah. What would you tell yourself, your younger self, say 3 years ago, that initial owner, what would you told them to do differently?
Get a mentor quick.
Mm.
Quick.
I think that would be my same advice to myself. Is just like find someone, find some coaching, find a mentor, you name it, but invest in it and get it. Because so many times you feel like you're on an island and you don't know how to prioritize things and you don't know where to look first and what needs to be done. We're just physical therapists treating patients. And we don't know what it means to own a business. So pay the tuition and find someone to help you.
No doubt. No doubt. Get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody in your corner who can help you manage yourself for a little while, Mm-hmm. And the second piece that I would also recommend is start reading everything you can about business or about leadership in general. I think you have a really awesome book recommendations on the website. Mm-hmm. Start there. Get the books and read. So you have a coach and now you're reading and now you're going down a journey. You're doing some hard things. You're challenging yourself. Your recipe is set. I mean, it's only a matter of time before you get closer to where you want to go.
Speaking of books, what were some that were most impactful for you?
I think the biggest book, I mean, they were all awesome. They're all great.
Yeah.
But the one that really sticks out is Leadership and Self-Deception by the Harvard Institute. It was that's just a way, that's just a great book. Yeah, that's a wake up.
That's not just business stuff.
Right? No, that's leadership, right? That's
that can help you with your marriage. It can help you with relationships, all relationships, not just business.
I think that was it's not like I read that book and then my business tripled, but I read that book and that kind of was the thing that shocked me the most. And I was like, oh my God, this is life-changing, actually.
Yeah, right.
Great book. Good to Great, but by Jim Collins. Great book.
Exactly.
5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni. Great book.
They're awesome.
Yeah, all good. The E-Myth, also another great book. Who writes that? Gerber?
Michael Gerber. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're ticking them all off. Those are the ones I recommend.
Yeah. I mean, those are the things that shape the way that you think.
Yeah.
You start consuming great material, you start thinking a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe listen to the PTO Club podcast every week.
Of course.
Probably a great idea.
Great place to start. Yeah, I would add, what would I add to it? I reference Gino Wickman, Traction, quite a bit, right?
Great book.
And that, like you said, has more to do with strategy, right?
Yeah, that's more of a tactical book, which is good.
It's fine.
Great.
Yeah, if you haven't implemented any tactics in your clinic, that's a good place to start.
Listen, nothing happens without taking some action. You got to take some action at some point. Yeah. You could sit there and journal and meditate all day, but right. You got to get to work,
Exactly. Maybe the most impactful book I've read business-wise the last couple of years is Who Not How.
You shared that book with me.
Oh, I love that one. That's real.
I think that is the ultimate book for delegation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mindset book, right?
Totally
a mindset, how to start thinking differently about delegating.
Yeah. They're doing a number of books in a series. So Dan Sullivan he's been a business coach for decades, but the writer is actually Benjamin Hardy. And so they're teaming up to do a number of books. They've put out 3 now. It was Who Not How, and then Adapt the Game. Yep. And they just came out this last week and I just got it. I've been reading it. Is 10x is easier than 2x.
100%.
It's mind blowing. This one.
100%.
I love this one so much. 10x is easier than 2x. And it changes the thought processes. And I think what we're talking about here when you're talking about leadership is if you want to get to where you want to go, you have to change who you are and what you do on a regular basis.
Got to change who you are.
Right. And they talk a lot about two things. Number one, to set a 10x goal means you fundamentally have to change as a person. To go to 2x, like I want to double revenues this year, is like, okay, we just keep doing more of what we're doing and we'll get what we'll probably get to 2x. But when you set a 10x goal, you have to fundamentally change things that are happening in your life and in the business, because you have to ask some much more serious questions, right?
You've got to be able to envision new things that you never thought would have been possible.
Right.
That's
and you're more than likely with that kind of mindset to get to 2x pretty easily. Yeah. Right. And then the second thing they really lean into is Pareto's principle, the 80-20 principle, that 20% of our work, whatever we do during the day, leads to 80% of the results, right? If you look at your results, 80% of that stuff came from only 20% of your work or effort that you put into it. Talked about is refining that 20% and letting go of the other 80%. So as you get rid of that 80% and focus on a 20%, you get to another level. And then that 20%, well, 80% of that needs to be delegated out and moved on to someone else as well. So you can focus again down onto your niche that you specialize in, right? So they lean into those two principles a lot here. I'm about halfway through the book. But I think where we're talking about and where we work a lot, mostly with owners, is, okay, you're seeing patients full time or at 75% of the time, or maybe you're not treating patients, but you're not just getting to where you want to go. There's something that's distracting you that we need to help you get rid of so that you can focus on other things in order to take your business to the next level. And many times that's how to get out of patient care, honestly, with most of the clients that we've met. But in other ways, it's not just patient care, but what else are you doing that's a distraction? Are you still doing your own payroll? Because that's pretty easily handed off and you can spend that time doing other more important things, right? And that's just an example of that 80-20 rule principle in effect.
Mm-hmm. I love that you use the word attention, right? And kind of think about, I don't know if you remember, but back in school, you start learning about childhood development, right? There's like these predictable milestones that children reach at certain ages, right? And I think that business ownership is the same, right? And it usually comes in the form of like, from, if you're making $0 to $600,000 a year, your problems typically tend to look like this, right? Mm-hmm. And if 600 to $1 million, you're more, okay, you've solved these problems. Now you're solving these types of problems, right? Right. And so somewhere along that journey, attention management becomes super important. That's actually one of the things that I wrote down on my list was like learning how to manage my attention was like a huge milestone for me. Mm-hmm. And having like auditing your schedule every month. What are you doing? And what's your focus this month or every week?
Right.
What is your system? What does your system look like to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable and that you're managing your attention? Right. Once I did that skyrocketed a lot of things for me.
And you tend to, in those situations, you're handing off other things or just letting
it fall aside. That's right. Where are we going? Where's the company go? Where's the company need me, not just today, but over the next 90 days? Mm-hmm. Right. And then forcing yourself to prioritize those things. That means, guess what? You got to delegate. Mm-hmm. That means, guess what? You got to be able to communicate and empower your leaders, right?
Right.
Right. So like that comes with leadership development and those types of things. So,
yeah. And I think where I really get a lot of help from consulting and coaching is, for me, I need someone to guide me with the words. Like, how do I say that? How do I do that? How does that best come across? Right. I can get to that place mentally, but then how do I start the conversation? How do I address the issue? And that's where I can look back in my past where coaches and consultants have helped me a lot. Like, how do you put words to that? without sounding like I'm really, really pissed off. Or
having hard conversations with your team.
yeah, how do you have hard conversations, right? Mm-hmm.
I think the question to ask is, what do you want your team to know, and how do you want them to feel at the end of this conversation?
That's a good one.
Begin with the end in mind. Start there. The words come.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm having this conversation is because I want this person to feel excited about their work. Right? What would be what would be bad? What would be the worst case scenario? Well, they feel offended. Okay, how do we address that early?
Mm. Yeah.
You know, and just starting to be a little bit more zoom out. You know what I mean? Zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the book? Crucial Conversations?
Yep. That's another one.
Great book.
Oh, that's so good. Along this path, I'm sure there were some hiccups along the way. It hasn't been smooth sailing in the past 4 years, has it?
Heck no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Failure is success in progress. Right. We failed for sure. And typically every single time we failed, it was due to my lack of leadership.
Mm.
Every single time. So we've experienced things like a key employee quitting.
Mm. Sure.
Right. We've experienced things like new big corporate hospital-owned clinics opening up in a town.
Mm-hmm.
We've experienced some financial crunches with declining reimbursement and collections issues due to a bunch of insurance things that I can't really explain.
Yeah.
Financial issues.
Sure.
You know? So yeah, I think that part of, one of our values is grit, right? Being determined and willing to face those types of challenges, and not just face them, but learn from them. And so sometimes it's helpful to kind of like zoom out a little bit and kind of just ask yourself, what happened? What went wrong? What could I have done better?
Mm-hmm.
What could I have done differently? How can I be more proactive about this? What are 3 safety nets I can build right now to make sure this doesn't happen again? So kind of debriefing that experience to learn, right? And then implementing the structure in your business so that way it doesn't happen again.
What would you tell someone? So like in the case where the hospital system comes into town, what kind of leadership did you have to implement, and where did leadership stand out in a situation like that?
Well, I think there was a lot of fear in the team.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of fear in the team and
in you.
And sure, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. So you got to address that first.
That's right. That's right. And I think that it's important to kind of make sure that you remember that abundance mentality. The truth is there's too many patients in the community to treat. Like you don't have the space to treat as many as there are.
Yeah, if you recognize, and I think there's studies to point this out, but I can see it to a point that 10 to 15% of the patients with musculoskeletal issues actually get to a physical therapist. Either they try to handle it on their own, or they go to a doctor who medicates them, or they get to an orthopedic surgeon who does surgery before they get to you. I mean, there's a lot of people that are suffering musculoskeletally that aren't getting the care that they need. So if you recognize that you're only seeing 10 to 15% of the injured population, then that should open up your mindset a little bit to what's available out there.
There's plenty of opportunity. I think it was a Nathan Shields one time told me, there's no lack of opportunity for those who seek it.
Right.
He told me that one time.
Opportunities are always around us.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, what happened? The new guy came in town, right? So now I'm fearful. Oh, I need to cut back on spending. I need to maybe let go of some people, right? Those are all of those things that are that could have crept into my head.
Mm-hmm.
But instead I was like, where are we at? Let me empower my team. Let me rally them together. We're going to talk about abundance. We're going to create some ideas to leverage the community a little bit stronger. Right? It's like, we'll relook at our marketing plan. Right. And so now I'm being more, I'm facing the challenge, and I'm being more creative and open and leveraging my team, as opposed to being fearful and insecure and paralyzed. And I'm sure there's some things I probably could have did better, but without some level of leadership, I would have never been the person who could have navigated that.
Oh, totally.
You know,
right.
You know, because I'd have been too scared.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't overcome that fear, then your team will sense that, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So it starts with good questions for yourself, like you said, and like, how are we going to address this? What do we have to do in order to continue to grow in spite of another clinic opening up in my space?
What has to be true?
Yeah. What has to be true? What do we got to do? And
what is the think win-win? Think win-win. So, I can't remember who wrote that, but think win-win. Right. What has to be true?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a Stephen R. Covey thing.
I think that was 7 Habits.
Was it 7 Habits? Yeah. Yeah. So, and so there are possibilities, but it starts, being introspective and asking good questions. You might have these fears, but why can't I have a successful clinic and another clinic show up? Right. It's probably in the best interest of the community that there's more people out there.
Why can't I be the best in town?
Probably one of the best things that happened to McDonald's was that Burger King showed up.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So that's awesome, man. Well, anything else you want to talk about about your success journey?
No, I mean, listen, I enjoy just kind of, chatting about those types of things. And I'd love to hear some feedback from some of the listeners. I'd love to hear from them. I'm not sure if they have an opportunity to maybe join the Facebook page and comment and give some feedback on what do you think about the episode? What are some things you want to talk about? You ever want to shoot some ideas our way? Would love to connect and see what we might be able to do to help you.
Right. Yeah. If people want to, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, if they want to do a discovery call with us, that's on the PTOclub.com website where you can book a call. We also got the Facebook group. I don't know if people if people don't know about it, they should know about it. It's the Facebook group, Physical Therapy Owners Club. So you can check that out. You can reach out to me directly, Nathan at PTOclub.com. And if people wanted to reach out to you, Adam, how do they do that?
Right now, we're going to have to use my company email. It's arobin@southernptclinic.com. Or hit me up on Facebook.
Yeah. So you guys are lucky enough to Adam here with me. He's going to be on a few episodes coming up. So you'll hear more of our conversations about ownership and how we can help improve you and help improve your clinic. And it starts with improving you, right? Cool. Well, thanks for joining me today, Adam. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Talk soon.